The next speaker I want to call on is Paula Kirman. She's a local activist who is with the Edmonton Coalition Against War and Racism and is a member of Independent Jewish Voices. Paula recently received the Salvos Prelorentos Peace Award from Project Plowshares for her work in the areas of peace and social justice. She's here to speak on behalf of Independent Jewish Voices, and I think she'll also be reciting a poem today for us.
Independent Jewish Voices has chapters in 8 cities across the country and consists of Canadian Jews from diverse backgrounds who share a strong commitment to social justice and universal human rights. To reclaim the tradition of Jewish support for universal freedoms, human rights, and social justice. In fact, we believe that the broad spectrum of opinion amongst the Jewish population of this country is not reflected by institutions that claim to represent Jewish communities as a whole. We believe that individuals and groups should feel free to express their views on any issue of public concern without incurring accusations of disloyalty, and we are compelled to speak out because of the lessons we have learned from our own history. As such, Independent Jewish Voices condemns Israel's latest attack on the Palestinians trapped in Gaza by Israel's illegal blockade. Israel has euphemistically dubbed the operation Pillar of Defense, alternately Pillar of Cloud. However, as one Independent Jewish Voices steering committee member, Dylan Penner, has pointed out, Israel's latest attack on Gaza is not a pillar of defense. It's a pillar of war crimes, which we have a moral obligation to oppose. He also goes on to say that this latest atrocity is compounded by the fact that, thanks to Israel's illegal and inhumane blockade, for the people who live in Gaza, there is no escape. Just look at recent history. 4 years ago, Israel launched its Operation Cast Lead on the Gaza Strip. Over 1,400 Palestinians were killed, over a third of whom were innocent women and children. Israel claimed moral righteousness while committing this massacre, but the United Nations later found that Israel committed war crimes and possible crimes against humanity, and that, in quotes, the assault was designed to humiliate and terrorize a civilian population. Amnesty International concluded that Israel's aggression amounted to 22 days of death and destruction. I am a Canadian-born Jewish woman who believes strongly in the Jewish value of tikkun olam, which means healing or repairing the world. When I see the devastating and inhumane and illegal treatment of the Palestinian people by a government and military supposedly representing my religion and culture, it is with a deeply broken heart. The actions of the Israeli government and military is antithetical to the true values of Judaism, which include compassion, reason, and social justice. It is for these reasons I cannot support such actions. I find it horribly offensive for any of the brutality in Palestine to be attributed to being in my name. It is not in my name. It tarnishes my religion and culture. I encourage other Jewish people to really look at the situation objectively, and not through the idealized notions of Israel with which many of us were raised. To blindly support a nation and its government because of misplaced nationalistic fervor or perceived ownership based on selective biblical interpretation is illogical. Zionism and Judaism are not the same thing. Historically, Zionism was opposed by almost all organized branches of Judaism. Even today, not all Jews are Zionists. Actually, Zionism's strongest cheerleaders today are Christians. So accusations that anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism are very much unfounded and merely a way of stirring up trouble towards those people who are critics of Israel. In fact, there are many Jewish voices from within Israel and around the world who are opposed to the Israeli colonial settlement policy in the occupied territories, and those voices are getting stronger. Thank you. Before I leave the microphone here, I was actually asked to do double duty today, and it is actually a little bit too cold outside for me to bring my guitar and sing something, so I brought the lyrics to a song that I wrote instead. I wrote this a few years ago, and I sat down to write it, sort of an essay about how I feel about the situation in the Middle East on my blog, and instead it came out as a poem which I then later set music to. This is called The Side of Peace. I've marched in Gaza rallies and sung for Arab crowds, though some of my relations think I should not be allowed. I'm asked why do I do it, or if I'm scared at the very least. The only answer that I have is I'm on the side of peace. I always say I'm Jewish. It's part of who I am. So is speaking out for human rights as best I can. This conflict is immoral. I want it all to cease. And that is why I take a stand on the side of peace. When innocent civilians are killed day after day by military massacres, I have the right to say, collective punishment is wrong as the death tolls increase. The only way to save lives is on the side of peace. Unlike so many others, I can't support a nation when it's so horrific towards part of the population. Yes, the leaders are not innocent, but the children are indeed, and so are all the others who are on the side of peace. It's easy to be silent or toe the party line. Complicity is for cowards who are part of the crime. I will never be accused of groveling on my knees. I stand with my conscience on the side of peace.